I want you to imagine a mother and her child sitting in a public area. A stranger comes and sits next to them. The stranger begins to smoke in the public area. Although the mother of the child has always tried to keep her child safe and healthy, the stranger has exposed the child to secondhand smoke. The child has now been exposed to a potentially life-altering health effect. According to research, scientists have found that there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke, and that people who do not smoke who are exposed to secondhand smoking, even for a short time, can suffer harmful health effects. Even if we have designated areas for smokers, they still create secondhand smoking. And I think that this is why smoking should be banned in all public areas. First, we'll preview the dangers of tobacco use. Then we'll preview next the health problems related to smoking. And finally, we'll look at data and statistics. We'll be we'll be looking over all three of these as we delve further and look into why we should ban smoking in general. So firstly, smoking can harm almost every organ of the human body, but it can affect women since not only does it affect when they're pregnant, but it can also affect them since they can have preterm delivery, they can have stillbirths, and they can cause low birth weight. Not only this, but this can cause sudden infant death syndrome and many other kinds of health effects, not only to the woman but to the child itself. But not only does this happen to women, it can also happen to men as well, since smoking can also affect men's sperm, which can reduce the fertility, but not only does it reduce it, but it also increases the risk for birth defects and miscarriages to the woman. Now, thanks to this, we know that smoking can cause other conditions as well. Not only does it affect men and women, but it also can cause health conditions that we can see that not only does it affect our respiratory system, it can also affect our teeth and gums and can cause many other problems related to the body. So, an example of this would be lung cancer. Since smokers have increased health risks, lung cancer affects not only adults but can also affect children. And secondhand smoke can also affect them since adults who do not smoke and are exposed to secondhand smoke can increase the risk of developing lung cancer. Not only this can happen, but also smoking is a major cause of stroke. As you can see in this image right here, a stroke has happened to the person that was smoking. And we can see that the brain has adverse adverse effects from the smoking, which we can see the blood clotting and all that. We can also see that it is relatively black, kind of like how tar can affect the brain as well, not just the lungs. Not only this can happen, but since smoking and secondhand smoking cause respiratory disease such as COPD, or otherwise known as chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. So as we can see on the left side, we can see how a normal lung should look like with how the esophagus tube and the lung valves should be open. While on the right side, we can see that with smoking, it can cause not only inflammation to the valve, but we can also see that there is a built-up sticky mucus within the tube and can break down the lungs itself in the inner tubes, causing them to become smooth. Now, thanks to that, we can see in the United States that smoking is the leading cause of death here in the United States. But they could have also been preventable. So we can see in this graph that mostly smoking causes around 4,800,000 deaths every year. And that we can see there's many other leading factors that can happen to us, but we can mostly see COPD, heart disease, and lung cancer. So we can often see that every year that a person dies, this happens. So not only this affects it, smoking increases the risk of death for men and women. As we saw previously, it affects the lungs, but it can also affect the brain, nasal, lung, and heart. and it can also affect the woman's reproductive system. Now, when we look at the children who are exposed to secondhand smoke, we can see that not only they're visible to the mandible, their lungs, and their lower respiratory system. So, thanks for that, we can see that in the last 50 years, death by smoking has increased. As we can see in this graph right here, now it's 5 million deaths per year, and we're looking at this worldwide. And that by 2025, we can expect 10 million deaths per year. So now that we know that, since smoke from tobacco products have harmful effects for both smokers and non-smokers alike, I think creating a ban on public smoking would be a preventative solution for smoke-induced effects to the human body. Not only does secondhand smoke affect everyone at any level, but I think that it should just be banned in public areas thanks to the reasons that I explained earlier. And I think that smoke-free policies can protect people while in a public setting, and it begins with changing state and local laws. And that every time that you have an opportunity to voice your concerns, let your representative know that you would vote for creating smoke-free policies.